Hello everyone, welcome to the baseball playoff preview. My name is Mike Stewart. I am here joined to my left, William O'Donnell, and to my right, Rob Gillis. And we're here to cover the playoff matchups that have transpired in Major League Baseball. At this point in time, unfortunately, I don't think we know who won the Seattle-California game, but we'll have to play that one by ear. Why don't we first get right into the National League, since those matchups have been pretty much set up for a bit. LA won the division. Cincinnati, they came into 2 weeks ago, they won that division. And of course, Colorado yesterday clinched their spot, and Atlanta's been clinched for quite a while. Why don't we first get into Cincinnati-LA matchup, which I think is a good one. A lot of good pitching, a lot of good hitting. Rob, why don't you take that one for us?
Both teams had a great year. I think I'm going to go with LA here, though, just from their timely hitting, whether it's Piazza, Karros, Mondesi. Granted, Cincinnati had some guys step up this year. Shirk had a great year. Smiley won 12 games, which I think is really good for Smiley. I just think the timely hitting with the Dodgers is really going to work out for him. And I'm going to take the Dodgers. And how do you feel about it, Bill?
Well, I'm also going to take the Dodgers. I think LA is just a horrible defensive team, but I think somehow they're going to actually step up and actually start making some plays. They've got unbelievable pitching, and obviously they can hit the cover off the ball. They're kind of a loose cannon team, though. You don't know what club's going to show up. You get these guys out there with 3 ERAs that these errors behind them, they end up giving up 5-6 runs and they lose ball games. Cincinnati, they're the club no one talks about. Defensively, very sound. They seem to do everything. Fundamentally, great team. The Dodgers seem to hit right-handed pitching very, very well, and they're going to get a ton of left-handed pitching. It should be a great series, but I think LA somehow is going to put it together and take this one.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to disagree with both of you on this. But let that start early. Shorik, 17-7, had a great season. I think that he is the key to the series, because you're going to get two chances to beat LA. And I think if he can win both his games, all you need is Smiley or Portugal to win one of the other 2 games. Maybe Wells pitches game 4, depending if they're up 2-1. I mean, that could be important. Martinez, Nomo, Tapani, a little bit shaky down the stretch. They won their games with a lot of clutch hitting, which you guys made good points on. Piazza's a clutch performer. I think that that's a very important factor for them. If he can hit 400 or 500, which is usually a pretty good an NLCS type of series average, that would work well for them. The bullpen's a little shaky. Worrell has been known to fold under pressure in the years gone by. And who plays short? I mean, is Offerman just awful? He's just
I don't even think we'll see him.
Yeah, I don't think so. On the other side, Cincy, why I like them, Gant, experience, more than likely the comeback player of the year in the National League. Larkin just keeps that team glued. He could easily be the MVP in the National League based on the fact that he is so important to that team. When he's out, they seem to lose. Morris, Hal Morris had a great year last year. Of course, in an injury this year, but if he can do anything in the series, that would really help them. And Reggie Sanders is a great ball player. He's just just not unbelievable.
He's a fantastic player.
The 5-point player. But the Dodgers have one in Raul Mondesi, so certainly I think it's going to be key. Again, bullpens I think is going to be the big factor, because you're going to be down the stretch, late in the games. If Brantley can do what he's been doing all year, that will really help them. I like Cincy. Based on the fact that I think that the key is Gant and Morris and Sanders, and I think that they will end up taking the series. Shorik, again, being the big key. Yeah. But why don't we move over to the other matchup that we know is taking place, and that would be Colorado and Atlanta. Colorado clinched the spot yesterday, today being Monday, yesterday being Sunday. On the last possible day, they avoided a playoff situation with Houston by winning their last game against the Giants. Atlanta's obviously clinched for a while. They've been just kind of going through the motions, but they've been there before, and I think that's very important. Bill, why don't you touch on some of the key points for this important series?
Sure. I mean, it's obvious right at the bat. The Braves have phenomenal pitching. It should be interesting, though, because the Braves just can't hit. At least they haven't shown it this year. I mean, Justice hasn't hit. McGriff hasn't hit. Chipper Jones is hitting, but it's not, you have no one that's really stepping up and really just hitting the cover off the ball like in years past when you've had Gant and Pendleton up there just tearing the cover off this thing. but the pitching is just phenomenal. It's hard to get past, but it should be exciting. You're going to be in Coors Field. So, I mean, you're not going to have to touch the ball too much to really get it to
A little
go.
pop fly ends up being a 3-run ding, and everyone's happy. So
Exactly. I mean, it's a tough draw for Colorado, I think. I think they got to win both games, right? They got to take them both in Coors Field.
absolutely.
I mean, they got some nice hitting. Galarraga, Walker hits the ball very well, but how well they're going to hit the ball against Maddox, how well they're going to hit the ball against Glavine, and then when Willis comes on to close the door.
close the door, that's all over at that
I
point.
mean, what do you do? So
Yep.
I think if Colorado can take the first two, they got a real good shot here, but I like the Braves. I love that pitching. 1.68 ERA out of Maddox. I mean, the guy's you're going to see him twice, either one way or the other. So I like the Braves.
Yeah,
Rob?
I think it comes down to hitting versus pitching. Again, Colorado's got the hitting. Atlanta obviously has the pitching. I think you spot Atlanta win already with Maddox. He's incredible. I think he's an artist. His control on the mound. Colorado, though, 4 guys with 30-plus home runs. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it'll work. But you got something to do with that field, though.
Yeah,
You got to take that
definitely.
into consideration. I don't think they're the same hitters on the road,
Yeah,
which is
I
why.
am picking Atlanta in this one. Just the pitching, I think, wins the games. And although Colorado did give Maddox one of his 2 losses, I just think he's going to turn it on in the playoffs, and I think they'll take this series.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Atlanta's the favorite here. Experience being the most important factor. When they won, when they clinched their division, they were just like, oh great, we're in the playoffs, you know, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. They are not going to celebrate until it's all over, and that is so important to their psyche and to the psyche of the other teams that have, you know, obviously you see what's going on with other teams. You're like, gee, Atlanta's not even celebrating. That's important. That's going to really weigh heavily on Colorado's chances. Ritz starting 11-11, nothing to be shining about, but he played well down the stretch, and I think that's important. Swift 8-3. He definitely had some trouble early in the year with arm problems and stuff like that. He's been renowned for injury, but he pitched well. They went out and got Saberhagen. He's not going to pitch at Coors Field more than likely because he pitched Sunday. He's probably going to pitch in Atlanta. That might give him a better chance.
He's got some arm trouble, too, though. So
Yeah, he's been banged up, and he hasn't been exactly the what they had hoped when they got him. I mean, it was a big ballyhoo to get Brett Saberhagen, and unfortunately, he didn't really pan out like they thought. However, they got the playoff spot, and if that was the idea to get him, and hopefully they would do that, then that worked for him. 430, the 4-men 30 club: Castilla, Galarraga, Walker, and Bichette, who had 40 and 128 RBIs, led the major leagues. A lot has to do with the field, obviously. Coors Field, ball flies, you mile up. But Bichette's an all-around player as well, and I think that could be a factor. Walker's got a great arm.
Definitely, yeah.
And, the bullpen for Colorado, though, is another problem.
Who's going to shut down that game?
That's a real problem for them. And the bullpen for Atlanta is the key throughout the entire playoffs. If they can somehow, with McMichaels and Wohlers closing the door, if they can somehow do that, with Maddox giving you probably 8-9 every time out, Glavine giving you 8-9 every time out. Same with Smoltz. You get Avery coming off the bench. I mean, Avery's #1 starter for a lot of teams in this league. I just think the experience from the Braves is just the most important factor of this series. Colorado is going to make things interesting, though, and I think if they do take 2 games in Colorado, the pressure falls on Atlanta because everybody expects them to get to the World Series. I mean, you lose your first 2. You're going back to Atlanta going, okay, we just need to get 1. That's it. As simple as that, Of course, you got to beat
Ritz
Maddox.
is key. I mean, Ritz has thrown his last 16 innings of ball. He's at .66 ERA.
Yeah.
I mean, he's key. He's got to compete with Maddox.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if he can, then, and if they can take, if they can beat Maddox, like Rob said earlier, they beat them once, Maddox once this year, and not too many teams have been able to do that, especially with 1.6 ERA. It's just, that's phenomenal. And he's done it now 2 years in a row.
Exactly.
He's going to be the 4-time Cy Young Award winner.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
and he just gets every call, too. I think that's important with Maddox. And he paints those corners. He gets the call.
He's a big study. He studies all these guys. He's faced them over and over, so he knows these guys cold.
Yeah.
And knows how to work them.
And he works them in, works them out, gets the, paints corners and gets the calls, and that's just as important as anything else. Is throwing 95, 100 mile an hour fastballs like your Randy Johnson. Maddox is just studies the game and knows what's going on at each and every time he throws the ball, and that's important. I like Atlanta. I think everybody likes Atlanta, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5 games, based on the fact if Colorado can take 1 there. You never know with the launching pad. It's not the launching pad anymore, but
Hit a couple long flies, they may just get out if the wind's pointing right.
exactly. So I mean, that could their bats. If the bats come down, but it always comes down to can pitching be good hitting.
Yeah.
Usually it does. Moving on to the American League first round matchups. Unfortunately, at airing time, we don't know exactly who's playing the New York Yankees. When the last we heard, I think it was 1-0 Seattle in the
exactly.
sixth. Johnson had like a dozen Ks, just pitching a whale of a game. I'm thinking Seattle's probably going to win that game. I mean, I just
Yeah,
think
I'd
you get
agree.
one run, and the way he was throwing earlier today, I don't
Right.
think they lost that game. Could be wrong. Could be California, New York, for all we know. I think we're going to base it on Seattle being there. Yankees catch a humongous break, Mr. Johnson. Are you kidding me?
That is
I mean,
awful.
the Sox actually got penalized for winning the division because if they were playing, they'd have to play Seattle. Granted, they would have to go up to Seattle, but you're avoiding Johnson for the first.
You can't even say it enough. I mean, even if California somehow steals this game, I mean, you've missed Langston, Finley just thrown.
Yep.
So now you're looking at maybe Abbott, and then who? You know, who do you bring on
Bosky?
then?
That's what I have.
Or, I mean, yeah. So then you got Bosky coming on, and you've got Cone going, and Petite. I mean,
I like
You
I
gotta
like the
like it.
wild card system, except why does one play two? That doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to me.
It's a matter of actually the other great game that I think both of us enjoy, the National Football League, and the fact that a lot of teams have the same stadium. They had to coordinate schedules with the Sunday games, and that was the big factor. So what they ended up doing was, okay, we have to set it a year in advance. This division has, the West and the East have home field. Doesn't matter. Cleveland's seriously penalized. However, with the 5-game series, and you get the first 2 at home, like Cleveland does, and like the Yankees do, I think that's an advantage because if you can take both games there, the pressure now falls on the team,
Exactly.
the home team, quote unquote, going home. Now they have to win 3 games at home. That's very tough to do.
exactly.
Especially against these
How many
type-
times can you sweep a 3-game series during the year?
Even good
So
teams
tough.
that they play average team, even if you're playing the Twins, it might be difficult to take 3 in a row.
You saying you don't like the Twins?
Shit, they're not in the playoffs? Oh, jeez, oh well. So we're going to base this on Seattle, New York. Bill, why don't you get, touch on a few key points?
Well, obviously, right off the bat, you're missing Johnson right away. I mean, you have no Johnson. Second thing is this: Seattle's going to get in a plane in about an hour and fly all the way to New York, and then get up tomorrow and have to play a ball game. And I mean, I think it's just too much. I mean, they might have to end up starting right away, down 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost can concede this game to the Yankees, but who knows? Maybe the Mariners come out and take the game. The biggest thing, I mean, the biggest thing in this thing is you don't face Johnson until possibly Game 4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so huge. It can't be reiterated enough. And the Yankees are on fire. They are 9-1 over the last 10 games. The hottest team in baseball. This whole format is favoring them right now to get through this 5-game series.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And without a doubt, they are the scariest team. I mean, from top to bottom, you get some of these guys, and granted, they don't have great season stats, but you start getting them hot. You get O'Neill hot. You get Sierra hot. You get Strawberry hot. I mean, you get these guys hot, and it could be ugly.
It could be very ugly
know?
for either California or Seattle.
Exactly. So, I mean, and they got Wetland out of the pen to
Yeah.
close the door. They got Cone. Granted, McDowell's not feeling too well, but hey, I mean, he's an
By then, it might be
unbelievable
2-0.
competitor. Yeah, it could be 2-0. Maybe you don't throw him that
Yeah,
day.
you wait,
Maybe
you
you let
give
him
him a
go
little
another
more
day.
rest.
So, biggest points. You're not going to face the big man. They got tons of offense. They're coming in after a tough, emotional game, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure
So,
they
I
will.
mean, I think the Yankees are going to get an early jump in a 5-game series. You need everything. I mean, you need to come out firing on all cylinders right away.
Yep. Rob?
I don't disagree with that, but I think another scenario is going to come down. I think Seattle just came together as a team all year. You guys stepping up. Flowers, Edgar Martinez won his 2nd batting title of his career. Just key guys stepping up when they need them. You talk about Randy Johnson not going to pitch. Bennis is no slouch. He's a great pitcher himself.
absolutely.
Instead of the Sox choking, I think the Yanks will take a choke this time. And
Are you speaking from here or here?
Exactly.
No.
Dandy Dorn doesn't get a chance to go any further?
no, I like Seattle. I think I'm just going to take Seattle.
That's
Not a lot of science involved.
What
just-
happens if California wins today?
Then I'll take the Yankees and we'll have another show.
I'll tell you, I think if they do win, for some reason, I think the Angels will be much more competitive than Seattle could be.
That's potentially true.
Yeah.
They have a lot of lefties.
I think
that could matter.
California and Cincinnati did 2 things. They went cold at the worst time you could, and I think that's going to kill them. So
That's definitely a factor, and then if you take that into the equation, then you might be favoring Cleveland as well, because the Red Sox haven't exactly lit it up lately.
The travel thing is just so, I just look at this
Yeah.
travel thing. I mean, they're flying to New York, 2 quick games, then boom, right back out.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they get one, I mean, these guys got to be whipped.
Yeah.
They got to be whipped.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and And certainly you're coming all the way back, you know, you had to go to the West Coast and then have to fly all the way back for 2 games, and then you got to fly again. I mean, that's a lot of traveling in like a 4-day period for any team. And
What if they win? They get to play another series.
they're going to be all over the place. Yeah. And if Boston wins, they're going to have more mileage going. Oh, my. My key points on that series, Cone, 18-8, has just been unbelievable. Great pickup on their part. I mean, you know, the Saberhagen was the big thing after Cone, but certainly Cone went as soon as that happened. And supposedly the Red Sox had a deal, and gee, it would have looked good in you know, the Red Sox uniform at this point in time. You know.
Exactly.
If California gets in, their lefty matchups against a lot of the power from the Yankee side would really help California. That's why I think the matchup point that you made there earlier is very important. You know, you got Abbott, Finley, and Langston. I think that could be detrimental to the Yankees' power of Sierra, Strawberry, Boggs. Well, Boggs doesn't have much power, but O'Neill. And the Yankees could be a real tough problem with that. And the key is Johnson pitching today. New York doesn't see a left-handed pitcher because you got Bosio, Bennis, and Belcher. I mean, you know, you're not going to see a lefty. And I think they're just going to wear down Seattle. As much as I like the Mariners, and you know, I was glad to see them finally make the playoffs. Again, we're basing this that they won today. I've got to preface that.
California.
Should they catch wind of our prediction here. But I'm glad to see that they finally made the playoffs, and hopefully they can give the Yankees a run. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5. Again, the key being the first game. Is it going to be Bosio? I think Bennis pitched yesterday, so it probably is Bosio. Or Bennis pitched Saturday, rather. Belcher pitched yesterday. Bosio, Cone, you got to give the matchup to the Yankees. Then you come back with maybe Bennis, Pettit, lefty against the Mariners. I don't know. It could be a little bit of a problem there. Maybe Seattle takes one there. Then you get the big unit maybe coming back on 3 days rest as opposed to 4. If he pitches games 3, you know, then maybe they got a chance to do something, which could be important.
And how much control is he going to have? I mean, he throws so hard. I mean, he may need all 4. I don't know. It's
well, he's pitching on 3 days today, and he had 12 strikeouts in 6 innings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if he can go 2 times in a row on that. Yankees bullpen is very important. Wetland, Wickman, Howe, probably one of the better pens in baseball. Mr. Steve, I have a million chances Howe. He's a nice lefty to come out of the pen and get that key lefty out. That's very important for them. Got to be happy for Don Mattingly. It's been like 1,785 games, or some obscene number. You know, just I was very glad that he finally got a chance to make the playoffs, and hopefully he can carry them. Can he contribute? That's the big thing. You know, he's just one of the pieces in the puzzle. But certainly, if he can step it up now that he's got there, if he has a letdown, oh great, I finally made it, then certainly that really will hurt their chances because they need his bat, they need his in there, they need his leadership, and that's important to them. Seattle on the other side, good bats, Griffey back, Martinez, the boys, they had a great season. I think that's their chance to really try to pound out some games, maybe try to get it to a bigger lead. You don't have to face the Yankees down when you're down and then have the Wetlands and Wickmans and Howes come in and wrap you up. So I like the Yankees as well. 3 games to 2 probably I think is the best scenario in that. I think that maybe the unit takes one of those games and it maybe helps them out. Why don't we move to Boston, Cleveland? Yeah, this is the one everyone wants to talk about anyway. Boston, Cleveland, 2 best teams in the American League matching off. That's a little bit unfair. Not, as much to us as it is to them. And I mean, I think we'd much rather be playing either the Yankees or Seattle, just for the fact that they're the weaker, the quote-unquote weaker teams. However, you're gonna have to beat the best at some point. Might as well get it over with sooner than later. So why don't we just go right to it? And Rob, why don't we see what you got as some of the key points to one of the most important series?
Well, Mike, I tried to leave my heart at the door, but I couldn't do that. So I do like Boston in this. I think top to bottom, Cleveland's hitting is so much better than ours. Forget the records. I like our pitching better. I mean, Martinez had a good year for Cleveland. Hershiser came on the second half, unbelievable.
He did a great second half.
But I just think if the groove we went on a month ago, if that can happen again, I think we can beat anybody in the AL. The NL, easier, but that's granted if they go on one of those streaks again. So basically, I'll admit, hands down, their hitting is incredible. They have Mesa coming out of the pen, which is tough to swallow. What do they have, 46 saves this year?
Automatic, pretty much.
Clemens, a lot of argument around Boston about why start him. I think it's great. He's experienced. He's been putting it together last of the season. So there's a lot of heart involved in my decision, but I think Boston can do it, you know, so let's just pray and see what happens.
Billy?
Well, my heart's telling me the same thing, but my head certainly isn't.
Yes.
So, I mean, the biggest thing, Clemens, obviously, he's got a chance to rewrite history. I mean, not rewrite it per se, but put himself, firmly implant himself in history. Absolutely. I mean, he's got obviously Hall of Fame numbers. I think if he can go out right now and knock off a powerful Cleveland team like this and put himself deeper and deeper into the postseason and maybe win a championship, I mean, he just guarantees himself his permanent place in the history of baseball.
I totally agree.
But I mean, there's so much offense on this Cleveland team, and I mean, I'll talk about it from a Boston point of view because it's so much easier that way. Because I mean, what Boston's got to do, they've got to get into that bullpen so fast. They've got to get past these starters, get into that pen, and keep Mesa sitting down back in the bullpen, never to come out ever.
Yeah.
Because the closer these games, even if they're ahead by one late, I mean, Aguilera is owned by Bell, owned by Ramirez. I mean, these guys hit him, and they hit him hard. They catch up to anything he tries to throw.
He got shelled a couple times at Cleveland. It was like 8-3 game. They brought Aguilera in, and
right.
the next thing you know, it was 8-6.
We almost lost the ball game, and next thing you know, Belinda's in here trying to save the game. So you know that's very scary. I mean, you're up 8-3 in a 5-game series. You got to win the game. And I mean, this is obviously Boston's best chance. I mean, you have a 5-game series against arguably the best team in baseball. I mean, they got 100 wins in a 144-game season.
144 is their record. That's just
53 games over 500.
And they had a better second half than they did a first half, if you can believe that. I heard a stat on the radio today that they showed their All-Star record. They had a better second half, and that is just...
It's amazing. And Boston's got to do a few things. They need to come out and they need to have their starters come out and stay in these games. I mean, they got to come out and pitch 7 innings, get to the 8th inning, let Aguilera be the guy, even though it seems Cleveland's out there to beat him. I mean, Aguilera's got a lot of playoff experience. He's got 2 rings with the Twins. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to hope he can go in there and do it. But Boston's bullpen is suspect. If you have to get in the middle relief type stuff, you got to come in your Belindas. You got to come in with your Mike Stantons. You could be in some trouble there. Yeah. Cleveland, on the other hand, you get into their bullpen, they're so young. I mean, they are so young. These guys have been in the league 1-2 years. You got Tavares out there. You know, I think he's a rookie or a second-year man. And
Chad Ogier.
I mean, it's tough. It's a tough series. I mean, my head says Cleveland. Tons of offense. Huge home runs. Bell can carry this team by himself. No one else has to be hot. Everyone else can go 0 for whatever. Yeah. Bell can carry this team. The nice things Boston has in their favor, Hanson and Wakefield. 5-0 against Cleveland this year. It's huge, absolutely huge. But which Wakefield's going to show up?
That's the point. Yeah.
And I mean, it's
14-1 or 2-7 down the stretch.
Exactly. And the other big point is this: Boston has come this far based on all of these fantastic substitute players that have played huge roles all year long. I mean, they've had injury after injury after injury. They've gone through all these players, and now they actually have to play their best ball players. I mean, and they seem to be winning because they have guys like Matt Stairs winning games and Chris Donald's winning games. And now, guess what? It's time for the big boys to step up and start winning some ball games.
And they haven't done much down the stretch with that type of load. I mean, maybe they're a little lackadaisical because of the fact they already wrapped it up, but still the same. I mean, you got your guys out there. You need to get a little, gel forming there and try to do something about it. But they didn't really do that down the stretch.
I don't think so. And I mean, Vaughn is one guy right off the bat. Fantastic year, tons of home runs. But he's got to put this ball in play, and he can't be striking out at the plate. You can't do that when you get to the playoffs. You got to hit the ball and hope that errors get made. And
that's a favorite picking point with me, with Rob over here, because I just think Vaughn, after the 6th, 7th inning, is the most overrated player in the major leagues. I don't think that it was hitting like 142 in late August after the 6th inning, which is just not a good number to be having because you're in a lot of close games. And if you're not producing as the number 4 man in those situations, then why are you getting all this publicity? Because you're a nice guy? No, I don't think that's right. You need to step up and show everybody that you are a clutch hitter, not just a good hitter. And hopefully that this is his chance to shine as well. And I think Clemens, the point he made on Clemens is very, very valid. His chance to, redeem all the people talking about, the hangnail in the 7th inning, the getting thrown out, Cooney, all that stuff. Here's his chance to say, all right, Boston, here it is. I'm laying it on the line. Enjoy it. He has said numerous times, I would love to be here when this town wins a World Series. Well, here's your chance now. This team wasn't supposed to be here, but they are. They're on your back. You're hot. Go out and show them that you can do it. And that's what it's going to come down to. Hanson, a little shaky for me. Yeah, he's 3-0, granted, but he gave up a lot of runs in a couple of those starts.
Getting
And
his curveball back, too.
that's important. You know, I mean, he didn't throw for a while. He was only
No.
throwing fastballs, changeup, and I'm thinking to myself, how is he whatever he is, 15-7? I don't understand that. 'Cause
Well, when you're playing your Minnesota, it's fine, but you know, let's go out and play the Indians and
Yeah.
throw heaters all the time. I mean, it's just going to be like BP.
yeah, it's totally going to be BP. Wakefield showing signs of some of the stuff that he had at the beginning of the year. Down the stretch, he had some problems. 2-7, not exactly favorable to his record. He had a chance for the Cy Young. Obviously, fell off the map with that. He is important. If they come back having taken one of the two up in Cleveland, and if he can go out and throw a gem and beat Mr. Nagy, who is awfully a good pitcher in his own right.
16 wins, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's if he can come out and do that, then you get Clemens and one of the two to wrap it up, and that's again goes right back to the point where Clemens can come up big at some point during the series. I think that's going to be the theme, you know, the hot head thing. Believe me, I'd love to say the Sox are going to win this. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I'll be at the Broncos, and it's going to be the fifth inning of the Sox game, Game 5. I'm like, what am I going to do? Especially,
Sell the ticket.
yeah, I'm thinking,
Sell that
I'm going
Broncos.
to have the
Yeah,
clicker
exactly.
at home that
Exactly.
night, but I think that Cleveland ends up taking this series, probably in 5 games, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5.
I
It
just
easily
don't
could go
want-
the other way.
I don't want everyone thinking, you know, I picked Boston, totally, you know, my heart in there, but it's not going to be a cakewalk for Cleveland.
Oh, certainly not.
I mean, they're the best team in baseball, but I think every time we played them, we played them tough. A lot of those games were good games, and that's before we had a stand in Aguilera when they came back,
Yeah.
8th and 9th inning to beat us.
First time, or Kenny Ryan.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're 6-6 against Cleveland this year, so I mean, certainly we compete
It's
with
going
this
to be
team.
interesting,
And,
I think.
It could have been a lot more. That we should have
Gotta-
swept that 4-game series. beginning
Gotta
of the year.
split those games at Jacobs
Yeah,
Field.
if you do not
I mean, you
split
gotta
up
have
there,
one.
that's it. Really, I'd love to. I think the best matchup is Clemens because Martinez has been a little shaky down the road as well.
Oh, yeah.
He was 8-0 at one point during the season. And in fact, I traded for him in fantasy, and then he proceeded to
had
go
him all
4
year, sure.
4 and 6 down the rest of the season on a
Here's-
team that was 54 and 30 something down the stretch.
Something
so.
interesting to think about too. Martinez just pegged Kirby Puckett straight in the face with a ball.
Yes.
Is that going to shake him at all? Granted, he's a veteran, but how many guys have gone and plunked somebody and put
Especially
them out?
Especially of a Puckett caliber. You know, you do it with
Exactly.
somebody like
and they're
that.
good friends.
Yeah.
And he just seriously hurt this guy.
Yes.
And because the pitch got away. It'd be interesting to see if he
Yeah,
bounces
maybe,
back without
maybe
a
he's on
problem.
the outside portion of the plate all day, not getting the strikes, walking people, and maybe
Yeah.
some people come up with some big hits. If you can just take one there, preferably the first game, because he put pressure on Cleveland.
Exactly.
Maybe they're 1954 all over. They won 111 games that year. They get swept by the Giants, maybe that year.
Yeah.
And you know that's big. 6, 7, and 8 for the Indians is just scary. Ramirez, Sorrento, Tomey.
Tommy, yeah.
That's the
Stepping
scary
up
stuff.
all year.
Absolutely.
You know, but-
60 homers, monster.
So I think we had 2 Clevelands and a Boston, although I wouldn't be surprised if Boston won that series. Not
Neither
at
would I.
all.
Neither would
So
I.
Please, please.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. That'd really
Cross the
help our
fingers.
cause. Why don't we move on to some of the postseason awards, or actually the season awards that are actually done at the postseason. Let's first move to let's discuss Manager of the Year. Why don't we go with the National League? I like Baylor. I mean, I just think you know 3 years and you win the. You win a spot in the playoffs with an expansion team. Granted, some of their moves that they paid a lot of money. They got a lot of money coming in with Coors Field, but you come in and with that type of team, and you build them into a team that's going to make the playoffs. I just think you hands down win. Manager of the Year over there.
Well, I agree. I mean, I like Baylor. I mean, the guy comes in. Granted, they spent what $35 million in the offseason, brought in some huge free agents.
Walker.
Walker came in, and they made sure Galarraga stayed. I mean, there was some big money paid out.
Yeah,
And
there was.
So, granted, they kept a lot, but you look at that staff and you say, how did they
don't
win
know
all
how
these
they did
games?
it.
And granted, it was hitting, but Baylor kept the team together. And then when they seemed like they were going to falter and maybe not win the thing in the end, when they were up by 3-4 games down the stretch.
Yeah.
He got them back on the right track, and here they are after 3 years. They're in the playoffs, and that's all. And it seems like in this Wildcat format, you get in, you're in. That's all you need.
Anything can happen. They could easily beat Atlanta. I mean, those are the 2 series I think are going to be, because I heard that the Baseball Network, which is an absolute farce in my estimation, is they got some of the lower key people. Like they're not putting any emphasis in those Atlanta-Colorado games. I think those are going to be some of the better games in the playoffs. I really think that could go 5, and they have like 10-9 games.
There could just be so much offense.
Oh.
I mean, the possibility for offense is unbelievable,
Yeah.
especially at Coors Field.
What do you like about?
I do like Baylor, but I'm going to go with Davey Johnson. Just
He's my second place pick.
definitely injuries. He had Rio, Gant, Morris. The Dion trade, he had to mix up some players throughout the season. working with Marge Schott is not an easy thing to do. So I definitely,
Ouch.
knowing he's not going to be back next year also, Knight's going to be taking his place.
Which
I think,
is very weird in its own right.
yeah, we won't go back to that year. But I think he did a great job, and Davey Johnson, Manager of the Year in the NL.
Good. And American League, what do you got?
Kennedy, how many plays did he use?
54,
Nothing else to say as
53,
far as
sure.
I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, you read about all these writers. They want Hargrove. Yeah, see, he takes a team and they win, and everyone picked him. That's exactly it. Everyone thought they were going to win. They're loaded with talent.
Well, how do you not
You know, I
win?
mean, how do you not? I mean, he should have won.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could have won with that team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really, I could have easily too.
Yeah.
Kennedy, 3 votes for Kennedy. I just think you mixing all that talent, losing a lot of the talent you had, that's just important. I think on the same note, Duquette gets Executive of the Year as well.
Oh, certainly.
Great.
You know, too many moves to the total.
How many times do you see, moves being made in Boston? I mean, I think it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Why don't we move on to Cy Young? Why don't we start with American League? Any votes for the big unit?
Yeah, this isn't too interesting. It's
raised
like
my
units,
hand.
yeah.
No brainer
I think he
time.
locked it up today. If,
Oh,
if
yeah,
he continued on the path that he was at airing time, he had 12 strikeouts in the biggest game of the year. He's finally proved that he can be a big game pitcher. He hadn't had the chance in Seattle before.
No.
It wasn't any games to be won that were important. He just went out to this thing. Now he had a big game. He was had 12 strikeouts at the 6th inning. God only knows what he ended up. He had 1 hitter through 6. Plus the fact that they were 26-3. That was a Gidry like 78 type of thing. Every time he was on the mound, they won.
Sure.
Same thing with Johnson. That's the most important thing.
Big strikeout pitcher, decent ERA, 2.5. That's great.
Yep.
I mean, he had a huge year. They were way down, way down. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is talking about, well, I don't know if I want to come back to this team if it doesn't have a winning attitude. Next thing you know, here they are in the hunt. They go up ahead, and now they're playing for the whole thing.
Definitely.
I mean, Johnson's had just a phenomenal year. And one of the few players, I believe, in the league that's really stayed reasonably injury-free.
Yeah.
So many players, even top-level pitchers, have gone down this year with the shortened season. Johnson's been out there all the time.
pretty much.
Good point.
MVP.
MVP. We know I want Mo Vaughn. Here's my reason. Here's my reason.
let's hear
Al Bell, beautiful numbers. I had both these guys in my rotisserie league. I like that.
And you were in last?
No,
Yeah, what happened?
close.
No pitching.
Come on, that's another show.
All right.
But Al Bell. But how many other players are on Cleveland? MVP, most valuable player. I think you have Bell, Mesa, beautiful. I mean, top to bottom in Cleveland. Mo Vaughn, I just think is the guy in Boston. I think if he wasn't there, clutch or not, Mike, they'd be in a lot of trouble if he wasn't there. And I'm really pulling for him, and I hope he gets it.
And in the National League?
Piazza.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's.
A catcher with
We
a
have quite a consensus going on.
346 batting average is
Why,
impressive.
do you have Vaughn as well?
I have Vaughn down. I'm not going to pick Vaughn. I think Vaughn, obviously, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, maybe I'd pick Vaughn. But he's been ice cold, really, for 3 weeks. And Albert Bell, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like that late rush in the presidential race. I mean, he came in and he's hitting the cover off the ball. 15 ball games, 10 home runs, 10 home runs, whatever it was.
Stretch,
Ends with 50 home runs. First player to go over 50 home runs and 52
doubles.
doubles. I mean, the guy tears the cover off the ball. He hits 317. I mean, his stats are phenomenal. And granted, he's got people around him. And surely that helps him. You can't pitch around Albert Bell. I mean, who wants to pitch around him to face Eddie Murray, Manny Ramirez? Nobody wants to.
See, I think that's the thing Mo proved too. Everyone said, with Canseco behind him. But even when Canseco wasn't there, I think he stepped up for the team, did a good job.
Yep.
I like them both. If either one of them won, I wouldn't be disappointed.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
I love Piazza. I mean, Maddox, obviously, phenomenal. Yeah, he carried the Braves to the championship.
Yeah.
But once again, give it to the Cy Young, give Cy Young to Maddox, give the everyday player the MVP.
Yeah. I think Maddox certainly is second place in my book
Definitely.
for the MVP because just the year that he had is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. All right. That would cover that section. Why don't we move now? We kind of made our picks, with the thinking of these first round matchups. Why don't we move on now to, based on what you have, what's your AL and NLCSs and your World Series and a winner? Rob?
Okay, AL, I'm going to have Seattle and Boston playing get into the World Series. Big heart here, Boston. Counting on a lot of things happening. I'm not saying they can do it. I think if they go on a streak again, they'll be beautiful, and I just pray to God that that happens. Atlanta, I'm going to ride their pitch into the World Series. So Boston, Atlanta, and I'm just going with it all. Boston, there.
For the whole thing.
There it
That would be
is.
nice.
Kit and
That would be
caboodle.
nice.
Get the monkey off my back.
And the 28th will be like right near that.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up.
Beautiful. That's his wedding day, but we'll get into that's another show
Yes.
in its own right. Billy, your picks. What do you got?
I'm going to look at Cleveland playing the Yankees. I mean, Yankees are absolutely red hot. Cleveland, though, I mean, it's just too much. It's just too much. And I like Cleveland taking the Yankees. I think Cleveland's going to have a tougher time with Boston in the short 5-game series. But I think they'll hit New York. I think they'll take New York out in about 6. They'll end up in the playoffs. Play the World Series.
How exciting would Boston Yankees?
I thought that would be the
That-
biggest.
I would love
that
to
be
see
the
it.
Biggest
Love to
thing
see it.
in this part.
Yeah.
Dale Arnold's been saying it numerous times. It would be the biggest thing ever. Shaughnessy agrees with that. That would be so huge. This
Yeah.
town would just go crazy.
It would-
However,
it would
be
be
great if you
baseball.
could ruin the curse.
Good
Yeah.
for
But if
baseball,
Ethel
too.
lost, oh God,
Yeah.
that we would just not hear the end of the
away the
curse of the
options.
Never
Beatles.
again. Never again.
But you got to think of it on the positive side. It'd be great for this town. I think that would be just phenomenal. We get to the World
Yeah.
Series, and maybe play the Braves or something
Go
like
through
that.
New York, maybe get Atlanta. Wouldn't that be neat? Boston Braves, Atlanta
Yeah.
Braves.
Or even
Boston Sox.
Cincinnati 20 years later. That would be interesting. Or Boston, LA. You can have beat LA at Fenway. I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of nice scenarios
I'll
there.
just take a win. I don't care who we play.
Bring me an opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring me an opponent.
Just bring
The
me
bad
a,
news
just bring me a
bears, I don't
parade
care.
on October
Exactly.
30th, please. That's
Exactly.
all I'm looking for. My picks, let's see. I had Cincy, Atlanta. I think that's going to be the matchup. And at that point in time, I think too much pitching, that's just going to win. Atlanta, I mean, they got the hitting as well. I mean, you made
Yep.
some points about the fact maybe they don't, but Chipper Jones, probably Rookie of the Year. McGriff, Justice. They had 4 people with 20 home runs. Granted, they don't play at Coors Field, so usually if they were there, they probably would have 4 with 30. Klusko's had a great year, as you say, and their bullpen's great. Pitching just seems to be hitting, and Cincinnati has some hitting. Shorrock maybe not as strong against Atlanta as he will be as against LA. And the other side, I got Yankees. Bite my tongue, and Cleveland. So Cleveland, New York, I don't think there's a matchup there. I just think Cleveland just rolls right through that. I think that whoever wins the Boston-Cleveland's going to the series in my book anyway. And I think that's the way it's been set up from the beginning. I think that's the way that the baseball network, shame on them. We can only watch one game, and that's the biggest thing. Call your stations, let them know we don't want the damn thing. I think Boston-Cleveland winner goes to the series. I think because I have Cleveland, although easily Boston could be there very easily. And that will leave her with the Native American World Series. Braves, Indians, woo!
Bring on the protesters.
Good pitching beats good hitting. Simple as that. I think that the Braves' experience on top of that, Cleveland will be there for the first time. Majority of those players, they built that team the last 3-4 years. I went out and purchased a hat. I just knew that they were going to be something to contend with, and that was very important. I just think that the pitching wins. Pitching seems to always win.
Yeah.
So I think that will pretty much wrap up our show for the evening. I want to thank Bill O'Donnell and Rob Gillis for joining me on this fine evening. Hopefully Seattle won, so we don't look too too bad on this one. But certainly we'll be curious to see what happens down the end. And hopefully maybe we'll have a celebration show for the Sox take. That would be a lot of fun. But thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.